This is tape number 2 of New Westminster Oral History Project of Mr. and Mrs. Hogg. Okay. You were talking about volunteer work.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I typed for Walter, for stores, and I did the honorary colonel's semi-military correspondence for 18 years, which semi-military correspondence is just a little different from ordinary correspondence. And also I have been on the regiment's annual officers' mess dinner committee for about 18 years, which includes keeping a control list of some 350 persons that we invite to this largest annual officers' mess dinner in the West. Names, ranks change. Actually, next week I'm going down to the Armory all day to work with the orderly room on getting the control list. We handwrite the names on the invitations after Christmas for the people that are coming. We've had wonderful speakers, General Lewis Mackenzie 2 years ago. The Duke of Westminster is the Commander-in-Chief, so it's a very prestigious dinner. And the purpose is not purely social, but it's to acquaint the city of Westminster and surrounding municipalities with the regiment. And we have some 80 business people that come so that the regiment will be known in the city.
Right.
In view of my lengthy service, I have been made an honorary member of the officers' mess and an honorary secretary of the officers' mess. In 1997, I gave the memorial in the Armory on November 11th at the request of the city of Westminster. The Armory holds about 1,500 people on that day. It was a most fantastic experience for me. I felt I could not let the city down. Previous speakers had been lieutenant governors and so on, so it had to be good. I couldn't let the city down. I couldn't let the memory of my husband down. And I couldn't let myself down in front of 1,500 people. So I worked on it for 2 months. I hired a speech therapist to come and do a critique on me and other people. I had my final notes approved by the colonel, who questioned a couple of my statements, and it turned out I was correct. So by the time I came to stand on the podium on that day, it was with great joy, and I felt that to tell the people how it was in 1939 on for wives and what happened to our husbands was a real privilege. It was a privilege to see the Royal Westminster Regiment Association, that is the veterans of World War II there. That's where my husband would have been if he'd been alive, because I said things to them and I could just see the smiles on their faces. They remembered what I was talking about. I'm very pleased. This is not regimental, but in a way it is. I've been appointed by the city to the Remembrance Day Committee, and we just had an extraordinary meeting last Friday where security of the Armory and surrounding areas was the topic. This Remembrance Day, no one can enter the armories without showing their ID. I am one of 4 people to stand with Army personnel at the front door, and because I know so many people in New Westminster, if I know them, I'll just say okay. Otherwise, if I don't, and the Army personnel don't. They have to produce an identification. And also, it's not exactly regiment, but we now have in New Westminster a candlelight tribute arranged by Archie Miller, the former archivist. And as a matter of fact, there's a meeting this coming Wednesday. And this candlelight ceremony, which was on last year, it's a very beautiful ceremony where these candles glow, they're lit, and they glow in the dark all around the cenotaph in the plaza in front of the City Hall. I believe it was brought into being by the federal government and started in Holland. So I'm on that committee also. So it just seems a never-ending commitment military-wise. Next week I'm spending the whole day in the Armory, and then the following week I'm having here Colonel Dean, the Honorary Lieutenant Colonel of the regiment, and Colonel Lee, the regimental secretary now, and they're coming to help me with these warning letters for the annual Officers' Mess dinner in February 2002.
Right. So it never ends.
Never ends.
Okay. That's great. Tell me, when did you celebrate the 50th anniversary of World War II?
Yes, but I can't tell you just what we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? Why don't you describe to me your feelings around Remembrance Day?
It's very difficult because it just goes back and back to all the men that I've known. Walter and I have known. I think especially of Walter that day. It goes back to my cousin that was killed in Korea, my Walter's cousin that was killed in England, and another of my cousins was in the Air Force, killed in England. And then it goes back to World War I when my uncle was killed and my other uncle was gassed and eventually died of cancer. And then it goes back to the Boer War. And it's just a remembering of all these fine people in my family and the fine people I've known. Our best man was killed in Italy. Just so many people that I've known.
Do you still maintain contact with people that you knew during the war?
Oh, yes.
Like wives or husbands?
Oh, yes, because Walter was a member of not only the Canadian Legion, and like a long-time member, but the Royal Westminster Regiment Association. Now, the association is the veterans. It's not the militia, it's the veterans. And that's what Walter was, a veteran. And so I go to their annual meeting in the Armory. I go to their banquet, and I support them financially. And I feel very close to the regimental association. The militia now is the younger men.
Right.
And it's wonderful that we have them, and they're working very, very hard and training hard. But the regimental association is the veterans. Yes, I'm close to them, and I know many of their wives and enjoy being with them. They only meet at their annual meeting once a year in the Armory.
Right, okay. Okay, I think we're just about done. The only other thing I was wondering is if there's anything that I've missed or anything that you feel needs to be said about your husband or yourself or about your memories of wartime.
I think that Walt and I had a unique relationship because when he went and when he came back and all the years in the militia, it was just a natural for us to sort of do it together. I supported what he did. Our social life was Army. And so I guess it was, well, I don't think he could have really done it without my support. We couldn't have done it in an antagonistic way because it was too extensive and too long for a man to do all he did alone. I mean, he had a very responsible job with the city and then a responsible position in the militia at the same time. It was a heavy load. And so I say we're unique because I don't know anybody else that has done what we have done. And it's been my joy to support whatever he did.
Right. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.